Previously on the Game On podcast.
So my story is an interesting one because I was very lucky to grow up in a street full of lots of kids. So we, in winter it was footy and out in the street, and in summer it was cricket in the street with tennis balls and stuff. And I, by chance, one day was playing in the street with up the driveway actually, and my brother and his good mate had just came home, and his mate was a opening bowler for Port Adelaide called Paul Ridgway, and at the time Phil de Freitas had come over and was playing for Port Adelaide at the same time. So they happened to be coming around our house. I don't know if they come for tea or something, but they saw me bowling up the driveway and commented, and they both sort of said you should come out to Port Adelaide and should be playing proper cricket. And that's sort of really where it led to. I went out to Port Adelaide. I knew Brad Young from high school. We went to high school together, so I knew Brad Young was out there, and sort of made it a bit easy to sort of reach out and go out there. So it sort of, yeah, it was I was a good batter with the tennis ball, put it that way.
Sportscast SA presents Game On. Game On. South Australians' destination for everything sports. Local, national, and international sports. AFL football, soccer, basketball, golf, baseball, tennis, cricket, and any other sports played in this wide world. And we're going to have a blast doing it. So sit back, relax, and let's do this thing. Welcome to Game On.
Welcome to Game On. My name's Pete, and today, once again, joined by Phil, filling in for Malcolm, who's unfortunately caught the COVID, so recovering. But once again, thanks for stepping in again, Phil.
Thanks very much, Pete. Good to be here.
No worries. Obviously, speaking with Mark Harrity there in part one of our interview last week, and I think it's fun to sort of think back that back in the day, we did play in the backyard and we did bowl the tennis ball, and yet an international cricketer comes around to his place and actually recruits him. What a fantastic story.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It is.
I never knew that. What a great bowler he was. I mean, look at the young Joseph lad for West Indies, playing with a lemon in the backyard, in the middle of the West Indies somewhere. And
didn't have any gear, had to be taken somewhere before the start of this series, and it's a Cinderella story, and hopefully he stays in Test cricket. I mean, that's probably the key, isn't it?
Money's not there, is it, in the West Indies?
That's right.
So you're looking at India, playing all the
in the one-days or the T20s, exactly.
That's the problem.
Mark Harrity, part two, coming up a little bit later. We obviously recorded that about a week ago with Malcolm, so if you do hear the different voices from different people, that is the reason why.
Around the grounds.
All right, around the grounds today, we're going to look at the baseball. SANFL trial games have sort of been listed or announced. Adelaide United and obviously the Socceroos, but we're going to kick off with the AFL. We'll start with Port Adelaide, considering you're a Port man, and this is probably a very hot topic at the moment, but board selections, obviously Treadray, Abernathy are going toe-to-toe, I suppose, in the board elections for Port Adelaide. Coming from Port, and we've talked obviously just before we've started recording, you have cast your vote, and what are some of the pros and cons for each candidate, do you think?
Well, I think Abba's had a go at it already, Pete.
Yep.
Don't know how successful. I don't know.
Yep.
Not on the board or in the committee, but been a member for many years, as you know, Pete.
Yep.
I must admit, I went Treaders. I cast my vote and went Treaders. Very outspoken.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's going to help him or not, didn't like Kenny.
Yep.
So I think I went Treaders. So, yeah, look, I think he'll get in.
You've got two very different candidates. That's probably the old school versus the new school sort of thing.
Quieter guy and the outspoken Treaders, which is perhaps that's what the club needs. I don't know.
Does it help that he's in the media as well?
Is he in the media now, though?
Well, he's doing a little bit,
Yeah,
obviously,
SEN,
5AA,
that's right,
and
5AA
obviously he's
or
got his
whatever
SEN. And also he has his own podcast as well. So he is around the media, and, obviously the stuff with Channel 9, I'm sure that'll work itself out in a matter of time. I'm just thinking along the lines of David Koch. I mean, he was very good at, I suppose, picking Port Adelaide up off the canvas, so to speak, and using his media personality to be able to boost things. It could be an advantage.
That's right. He's got plenty of contacts through the media, Koshy, and where the Treaders has. Tom will tell if he gets in. But I'll be happy to have Treaders on board, one of our all-time greats, let's face it. So, and he seems quite, I've met him myself, so knowledgeable. And
I've actually played against him, so he's pretty mouthy on the field, so I understand where he's coming from these days. So that was a long, long time ago. By the way, he was a very good up-and-coming junior. We'll see how that one plays out over the next week or so, and obviously the fans will make their thoughts known, I suppose, on the topic. So we'll watch that one with interest. All right, mate, we'll move on to Adelaide. Rory Sloane, injuries at this time of the year with most clubs, you don't want to see them, but this particular one, ouch. Not only for him personally, but obviously for such a great player. Yeah,
and age is obviously it's probably it is his last year. He's told us that already. You wouldn't want to get injured now, would you?
No. I mean, I've talked with Malcolm obviously about how they might utilise him this year, and we've said that the two probably most established players for Port and the Crows is probably Boakey and Sloaney. Does this make it harder for him to sort of come back into that team? And we've talked obviously about maybe the super sub type thing where they plug a hole whenever they're in a bit of trouble or, something happens and they can Mr. Versatility basically.
Yeah.
You don't want to see injuries to great players. Is this the last we're going to see of him?
I think
it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. You think he'll come back, but how many games we'll see out of him this year will be the big thing, I think, Pete. Boakey's the same. Was I big on Boakey going on? Probably not. I think I'd rather see a young lad coming in and super sub him and just get him the feel. Love Boakey with, I'm passionate about Boakey, but Sloaney's exactly the same, as you said, Pete. And, I think we see maybe half a dozen games out of Sloaney. I don't know how bad the eye is.
And it's the same one, I think, from last time, from what I'm led to believe.
Good.
So it's not good, is it? Obviously, we've talked obviously about Boakey and Sloaney in that super sub role. You're right, actually bringing that up in that Port Adelaide are at slightly different stages to what the Crows are, if that makes sense. You'd agree definitely that Port are trying to be in that window for now, whereas the Crows are sort of still just building towards that window. So Sloaney is the Mr. Fix. It might work very, very well for them. But like you said, a younger player in a team that is going to be around the mark, and we can't deny it that they are going to be around the mark, is probably the way they may go this year.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm big on bringing somebody up. Blooding them, a few games. They're going to have their good games and the bad games, Pete. But you've got to start somewhere, as you know.
Exactly
and
right.
Do you hang on to those older guys that have been around and, I'll give them another year and rah. I don't know. But,
sometimes it can be detrimental. We've seen a lot of teams that have done that where they have given a couple of their ageing stars just that 1 year too many, and it's cost them.
Exactly. Not only footy, look at the Australian cricket side. So, it'll be interesting to see, Pete.
Absolutely. All right, mate, we'll stay on the AFL. The AFL's under pressure. A report or a study's come out with some recommendations about the concussion rule. They are now suggesting 21 days as a minimum. I think the AFL is around about the 12 to 14-day mark at the moment. 20 other sports have actually adopted or are looking to adopt this 21-day period. Do we see the AFL going down that path? Because this is a slippery slope, which we talk about on a regular basis.
It's going to be a short year for a lot of people, isn't it? If you're going to adopt that.
Well, I mean, let's think about the flow-on effects from that. Let's be logical about it. And player safety and health is obviously number one. No doubts about it. But when it comes to list spots, there's only so many list spots available. Now, if you have 2, 3, 4 players on 21-day rotations, where are we going to be sourcing these players from? How are we going to be sourcing them? Payments, relocation, if we're going to take this mid-season draft/trade period coming in. Because, obviously you look at the way that it's set up at the moment and we don't have a national reserves competition, but say an Adelaide or a Port Adelaide loses 2 or 3 players through concussion, they're already using top-up players from country leagues and everything else.
Right. Yep.
That then diminishes, obviously, the SANFL, and that's a whole nother can of worms we could definitely open for another hour and talk about that. Where does that sort of leave some of these clubs in? How do they fuel some of these teams? I mean, it's I'm just trying to think about it logically.
I know, yeah. I mean, you look at the Maggies. We've really struggled. The depth, you can't even go and watch them because you don't even know half the lads playing because top up, it's just keep topping up. And a lot of those lads are no better footballer than, I won't say you or me, Pete.
Division 1, amateur league, exactly,
and that's
right.
all
or country football.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I saw a podcast last night, Pete. I got back from Lawn. Been away. Newry Footy Club are spending $16,000 on this concussion. They are going to spend $80 each player. To research and to so they're going to fork out a lot of money. And Josh Norton, who's the president, he's on 5AA apparently. Got interviewed, and it's just fantastic what they're doing. But if every club spends that, you think of some of the little country clubs out north, that are $16,000 for Newry's probably all right. But you get a club out further, are they going to be able to afford it? Now the state government's looking to help subsidise. I mean, concussion is such a, as Josh said, you get one brain, you can replace a knee, you can replace a hip, you can replace this, that.
Shoulder, fingers.
Brains are very important.
As we said, it's a bit of a slippery slope, but obviously the recommendation for 21 days is, the logistics behind it. Understand it certainly at the local level that's probably no problem. Obviously, we watch the top level for entertainment, but you don't want to be seeing teams disadvantaged, I suppose, for that, and how they can work the system to allow, obviously, those players to have their 21 days and recover and get themselves right, but also provide, competitive teams along the way. So, that's probably where I'm at with it a little bit. I love that there is more research going into all of this. We've obviously had our guests on who talk about the intricacies of the concussion protocols and so on and so on. Very, very important. We'll keep an eye on that one. That one's going to be a pretty hot topic, I think, over the next week or two as well. And the last one on the AFL, Roughhead to return to Hawthorn. My question is there a natural drawback to your original club?
It's got to be, doesn't there?
It does.
I mean, there's got to be. Ruffy was a absolute legend there. I mean, I think he kicked 6 or 7 goals in his last game.
Yep.
Could have still been playing just about.
Yep.
I mean, St Kilda, I think it was him that left Saints, wasn't it, end of last year.
Bit of a mutual party.
Yeah. So I think it's great. I'd love to see the Port boys come back.
Yep.
And it's always good. I'm not too sure. It can be a bit, mate, play a game for the mate.
And that's why I sort of ask a little bit, because there are clubs that are somewhat bringing back their former stars to assist in what they're doing. I mean, St Kilda's probably a classic example of, Goddard and Hayes and all of those, Harvey, all being involved. Obviously, greats to the club. Port Adelaide the same. Josh Carr. I know Jacob Surgeon does a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still at North Adelaide, but obviously being good mates with Joshy Carr and Co down there as well.
I mean, you look back to Matty Primus, it was a bad move, didn't have the respect of a lot of the players, but it can work the other way too, Pete, can't it?
Right.
He's a legend, and you look up to him and he can guide you.
And then also Ruffy, obviously, there's the draw for him going back to his original club that he spent lots of time at, and I think that's probably the same for most people, is that, every now and then you think, oh, yeah, I wouldn't mind going back to my old club, or a family member has played at that club. I wouldn't mind having a season there or a couple of seasons there, et cetera, et cetera. So, excellent. All right, mate, we move on to the cricket. The Test loss shock. I didn't see this one coming, to be honest with you.
No, you didn't. I don't think anybody did.
No, Joseph was amazing, wasn't he?
Oh, and when he got his toe split open, you thought, well, game over. They've lost their best bowler. He tapes it up or whatever he done, and away you go and take 7 wickets. I mean, that is...
And apparently he didn't even bring his shirt to the ground, thinking that he wasn't even going to be bowling or playing that day. And they've obviously given him a shot of something or a couple of tablets just to take away the pain, strapped him up, away you go, and then bang, bang, bang.
Unbelievable effort, wasn't it? I mean, that is just heroic.
Exactly
it's,
right.
Something you remember forever, isn't it? It's
Fairytail, really.
Yeah.
He comes to Adelaide, picks up his first fiver in his first game there. Nathan Lyons basically, welcome to the club, did the same thing. And this guy arrives in Australia with half a kit bag, really. They've got to take him out to buy his stuff. It's just a fairy tale story, and hopefully we get to keep him in Test cricket. Obviously, the money side of it, does play a part with a lot of players' decisions these days. Fingers crossed he does, but wherever he ends up, he's going to be very, very good bowler, I think, in the future if he can stay healthy. Yeah.
We're lucky here in Australia. We get good money.
Yep.
Play Test cricket. They've got good contracts. West Indies are not quite so lucky. India's lucky.
Yep.
They've got plenty of money. But, be nice to keep him. But
hearing on the grapevine, I'm sure it's not breaking news, but just hearing on the grapevine that I think he's got a little bit of connection here with the South Australian, or the not the Redbacks, the Strikers.
Nice.
Part of the T20. So we might see him in the Strikers colours in seasons to come, maybe. But hearing on the grapevine that may be the case. All right, Mitch Marsh wins the Alan Border medal, and Ash Gardner wins the Belinda Clark medal.
No surprises there, I don't think.
Mitch Marsh is an interesting one, obviously on the outer for a long period of time, a bit like Usman Khawaja. On the outer for a long period of time, gets his opportunity, bang, all of a sudden he is performing very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't make 100, I don't think, did he, Pete?
No,
90s,
yep.
And 70s, I mean, still a good fieldsman, good bowler, I think well-deserved.
Consistency is the key, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can be like I shouldn't probably mention him because he's still a good cricketer. At Travis Head, you make 100 and then a couple ducks.
Yep.
But Mitch was very, very consistent right through, wasn't he?
And Ash Gardner's obviously been around the women's scene for quite some time. And I believe that's her second Belinda Clark medal. So certainly being recognised for her efforts as well. The one-day series against West Indies starts this weekend. What do we expect? A few new players. We did sort of hear this morning that a couple of debutantes are going to make their one-day debut for Australia. How do we see that one playing out? With obviously Lance Morrison and Xavier Bartlett we're obviously talking about here.
Yep.
How do we see them fitting into the current structure of the team?
Watching a fair bit of that T20 on the TV, Pete.
Yep.
Both deserve their go, and so does Shorty, obviously.
Yep.
Pretty short.
Yep.
I love it to see them blood somebody. They've got to blood them. I was a bit disappointed with the test.
Yep.
Must admit, but here we are talking about the one-days.
Are you talking in the terms of Smith going up the order? Yep.
Don't agree with that at all. Should have brought somebody in.
Yep.
Bancroft or whoever. It's good to see. We've got to blood them.
Absolutely.
Play them.
And the ICC test men's test team was obviously announced during the week, or about a week or so ago. Obviously, from a South Australian point of view, we've got our Travis Head and Alex Carey obviously in that team. Fantastic achievement for what they've achieved over the last 12 months.
Absolutely. I mean, both had pretty good seasons, haven't they?
Absolutely.
Carey's kept very well, very clean, and he's made his 50s. And
he's batted well, but without going on. And I think that's probably the one slight, I'd say. You've got fantastic keeper, obviously plays his role in the team. He is making runs, but you'd like him to sort of go on with it. And occasionally gets that one silly move, and that's the one that gets him out.
Yeah, he probably could have 5 to 10 centuries against his name by now, Pete. He's got to 70s and 80s, and seems to lose his wicket. I mean, Travi's a bit the same, isn't he?
But then again, they are sort of batting down the order a little bit, and a lot of the bulk work has been done by Warner, Khawaja, Smith, Labuschagne, coming in obviously before them. And you know, by the time they do get down to that area, it is very much the tactics of let's just go. Yeah. So we've got to sort of keep that in mind as well a little bit. But there are times where you do need to lock down and play some good cricket, and Carey's doing that, and Travis has done the same. Yep. But yeah, just going on with it is probably the next thing, isn't it?
But yeah, you're right. You're spot on. Having a beautiful top order like we've got, it suits Travi down to the ground, because he can come in and play his natural game, which is bash.
Exactly.
And he can hit a ball.
And he hits it sweeter than most. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty scary when you see him coming down at number 5 or number 6 in the order, or 4, 5 or 6. Yeah. And knowing that you're in for a bit of punishment, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, mate, let's move on to tennis. This is probably in our wheelhouse a little bit more than the cricket. Malcolm obviously is the cricket man amongst us here, but Yannick Sinner and Sabalenka obviously crowned champions, and great to see somebody different obviously winning a Grand Slam. And I think from an Australian point of view, it was the first time that it had not any of the top 3. Obviously, we're talking Federer, Nadal and Djokovic in a final against a different opponent since 2005, I think it was, which was Hewitt and Safin, I think.
Okay. Yep.
So
it's back in my day. Pete.
Yeah.
I was probably over there. Great to see.
Yep.
Great to see. Let's spread the wealth around a bit. I mean, some of these guys, you know.
Well, we're looking for this next generation to come through to excite us a little bit. Medvedev obviously has been around the mark for a good number of years. Sinner's only 22, 23.
Yep.
You know, and then you look at sort of the quarterfinals, semi-finals. Sinner was very, very impressive in his semi-final against Djokovic. This could be the dawning of a new age in tennis. I hope it is.
So do I. It's I got to admit, Pete, it's got a bit boring.
Mm-hmm.
Don't follow it like I used to.
Yep.
I got to admit.
Yep.
As much as you love to hate him, Kyrgios is just fantastic, and he was, you know, so flared up. You know, he could go off. Let's face it, but one of the most talented tennis players you want to watch, as was Jimmy Connors.
Yes.
You know, if you look back. So let's hope bring out some bit of character too.
Yep.
Not saying that they're going to go off or whatever, but there's no umpires to go off at anymore.
No. The electronic line system is fully in effect, isn't it?
Right through, so I'm done out of a job.
I was about to say, you've lost a job, mate.
Yep.
Just going on with the Sinner victory, obviously that was impressive. 2-0 down, really back to the wall kind of stuff. Leads me into my next point in that Darren Cahill was brought on as a bit of a consultant. But at the end of the day, he's coached 4 Grand Slam victors, and all 4 of them have been slightly different in some way, shape or form. He does credit, obviously, and you being a Port man, obviously, big smile on his face here as soon as I mentioned Port Adelaide. Obviously mentioned through media and stuff like that he did learn a lot of his coaching techniques, I suppose, via the Port Adelaide Football Club. And we all know John, his father, obviously got the best out of his players and team, and I think his son's obviously tapped into that a little bit, and he is getting the best out of these players. I mean, talent is obviously definitely there with someone like Sinner, and obviously Hewitt when he was coaching Hewitt, and Agassi when he was with Agassi, and Hallop when, you know. So he's got some good cattle to work with, but it's just getting them that next step, and I think Darren Cahill is certainly the man for it.
Yeah, that's for sure, Pete. Jack done it, as you said. Yeah. Jack done it at Port. Some ordinary, just average players.
Yep.
He brought them to another level, and it looks like Darren's doing that with the tennis, isn't he? So, not saying they're ordinary. They're certainly talented, because you know as well as I know, Pete, how good you have to be to be up in that.
Absolutely.
You know, you can be a good tennis player, but
absolutely.
Wow, there's a few levels up.
Yep.
About being a good tennis player.
Certainly mental strength. I'm sure that, you know, that's part and parcel of what Darren talks about. Darren actually mentioned that Mark Williams is a bit of a mentor to him, which I sort of knew there was some connection there, obviously through Port Adelaide and the Williams family and everything like that. But Basically having Mark sitting in the coaching box area for Sinner through all of the matches, being able to bounce ideas off. Isn't it fantastic that you can have a mentor that is open like Mark Williams is to a lot of people? I'm not saying just Darren Cale, but, he seems to have his finger in a lot of pies in that he does mentor a lot of people. And having that mentor and how important it is for you to tap into that. And I think Darren's done that beautifully with probably his old man's, bouncing ideas a little bit off of as well. I mean, he's going to be high in demand, I think, moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know how much coaching he wants to do, or it looks like he's done it back step. He's back in Adelaide again, I see. So, but Mark Williams, I reckon, is just a great coach and great. He works very well with players, and so I wonder what sort of input he would have had, whether he had any input.
It would be interesting to know. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we're not going to find this out, by media. It's going to be sort of in the background a little bit, and people are going to obviously make mention of it as we are here, and I'm sure it'll come out in time, some way, shape, or form. But just having somebody like that to bounce ideas off of, I'm sure, was probably part and parcel of why Mark Williams was part of it. And obviously, he's living in Melbourne as well, so. There would have been conversations over coffee in the morning or dinner at night or a wine at night. Hey, I'm thinking this. What do you think? Can we steer this young lad? And I think they did it perfectly. Well, congratulations.
He mightn't have much to do with Sinner. I mean, he would probably talk to him, but he probably did. Darren probably bounced big ideas off of Mark, and Mark bounced them back off of him.
And refined it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it'd be interesting to know, Pete, how
Absolutely. The Australian Open, where did the Australian Open, we went from 14 days to 15 days, but part of it was obviously trying to get the late night finishes done a little bit earlier. I don't really think that it had too much impact, the extra day.
No, we always used to fight rain delays. That was all our problem. I don't think they had any rain.
No.
Or very little over there.
Yep.
So then you was on catch-up, and you could do 14, 15-hour days as an umpire, which I've done for 10 years.
Yep.
And it was a huge day, and you were really tired and, sitting on court, concentrating. And
and those plexi-paved courts aren't exactly light in temperature.
No,
if it's an air temperature of 30 degrees, you're sitting in almost 50 degrees. Yeah, that's really what it gets down to.
Yeah, and so I guess it's to give them that extra day just to catch up if they need to catch up. And it didn't seem to make much difference, did it? I don't think to the viewer.
No.
So, yeah.
Interesting. And just to finish off on the tennis very, very quickly, obviously Kyrgios was in the box commentating. He did make some comments about sort of where he sort of felt like things have gone wrong for him a little bit, in that he didn't get selected, or the AOC were a little bit iffy about one of his selections for his selection for country, which is obviously what we all aspire to no matter what sport we play in, whether it's marbles, two up, football, tennis, cricket, lawn bowls, whatever. You're always aspiring to be better and better. He doesn't get selected, or there's problems around that, and since that point it just seems like things have gone completely haywire. And not saying that that's the reason why he's acting up or why, but I do feel like there was a bit of withdrawal as, well, I'm just going to do my own thing. And now it's snowballed into him doing his own thing. And yeah, the injuries have caught up with him a little bit, but it's sad to see him not playing. That's really what it gets down to. Absolutely,
Pete. As I said before, he's just so talented. Perhaps just mentally, I'm not sure whether he's switched on all the time. And that, as you know, tennis is a huge mental game. In day out. The way they do it, and
I think that's why Djokovic has been so successful. Is he just is mentally tough. And Sinner looked like he took that to another level, and maybe Darren was part of that. But these players that are on the fringe that don't quite step up makes it hard, doesn't it?
On his day, he'll beat anybody.
Agreed.
And, you look at Rafa and Federer, and they're just no emotion at all, whereas Nick likes to let it out, and he's just so probably as talented as any of those three that I've just mentioned, but, it's a mind game too.
Concentration is key. That's really what it gets down to. And, obviously McEnroe used to use it to distract opposition. Realistically, that's why he would have his say on the court. That's probably the best way of putting it. Or complain about a line call, et cetera, was to try and break that competition, but also refocus him. Nick sort of does the same thing, but it doesn't quite refocus him. He then ends up engaging with crowd and bits and pieces like that, which is fun.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to win a Grand Slam or you're trying to win tournaments, you've got to know when to pull that trigger and when not to pull that trigger. And maybe if he comes back, it might change where he is engaging with the crowd, which is what we want. But he then does focus a little bit more. But the jury's out on that one for me.
Very entertaining, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
All right, mate.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, mate, we'll talk the baseball, SANFL, the soccer, and Mark Harrity, part 2.
You're listening to the Game On podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
All right, let's continue on with the baseball. The Adelaide Giants were made to earn their championship decider spot. The Melbourne Aces came to town and put the Adelaide Giants under a bit of pressure there, winning Game 1, and then Game 2 and 3 were very, very tight. They weren't how I thought it was going to go at all.
Yeah, I mean, they've been going along beautifully, haven't they?
Well, scoring at will at times,
Yeah.
and you sort of thought, look, I think they've got enough firepower in the bullpen and they've got enough firepower on the plate. But Melbourne made them earn it.
And aren't finals a funny thing, Pete? I think we've all played in enough finals to know that, you've got to take form into it, but it can be a strategy and a mind game too in the finals.
And it can be quite cruel because let's look at the flip side of that. If they had have lost after having such a fantastic season, where does that leave you for the following year? And obviously they won last year, so they're trying to go back-to-back and defend their title. But showed some real true grit, which is really, really good. When the chips were down a little bit, they were able to grind out and do what they needed to do to win.
Yep, exactly. Mental toughness, I suppose, isn't it?
Which is what we talked about in our last subject. Obviously, now after winning against the Melbourne Aces, they get to take on Perth for the second year in a row. So, familiar foe. They're obviously playing Game 1 over in Perth, and then Game 2 and Game 3 are obviously here in Adelaide. Yep. With the way that the finals are structured, the higher-ranked team obviously gets the advantage of potentially 2 games at home.
Yep.
Adelaide have gone all right against Perth. Over the years, Perth has always been Adelaide's bogey team, but over the last couple of years, Adelaide have sort of got on top. But we're not the hunted this time. We're not the hunters this time. We are the hunted, obviously being back-to-back, going for back-to-back championships. It's going to be an interesting and fascinating series starting this weekend, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to say to you, Pete, when does it kick off?
Yep.
Be good to get that first one, wouldn't it, over in Perth?
If you win away, and doesn't matter whether it's soccer, especially with the home and away type stuff, Aussie rules football is exactly the same or AFL. Getting wins away can mean the difference between you actually having an okay series or season or not having an okay season. I think we sort of seen that with some of the teams this year that obviously Adelaide had a fantastic home record, but were just struggling a little bit away. And come this year, they'll obviously look to rectify that. But if you can pinch games on the road, diamonds in the rough, absolutely. All right, we wish the Adelaide Giants a positive start over in Perth, and then obviously coming back to Adelaide and finishing it off in style in front of their home fans. So looking forward to that one. All right, mate, we move on to the SANFL. Like we do with Malcolm each week, we like to keep the SANFL in the news a little bit during the off-season because they don't have the budget of the AFL, so they don't have too many advertising or people talking about it. But the SANFL Week 3 and Week 4 trial matches have been announced. Sturt v Adelaide at Thebarton Oval. Good to see Thebby getting a little bit of a use, obviously, before the Crows move there in 2025-26, depending on building and all that kind of jazz. West Adelaide v Glenelg at Hisense Arena. South Adelaide v Norwood at Flinders University Stadium. Centrals v West Torrens at Ex-Convenience Oval at the Ponderosa there, and North Adelaide v Port Adelaide at Thebarton as well. So a double header there on Saturday the 15th of March. The Sturt Adelaide game is at 10 a.m. at Thebarton, and the North Adelaide Port Adelaide game is at 3:20. So good to see each club getting a run there. Obviously, every club is involved on that particular day. So SANFL looking to ramp up for 2024.
I've actually penciled a couple in, Pete, to go and have a look. I think Malcolm's the guru of SANFL.
He loves his SANFL.
So
I love my SANFL. No,
talking about it.
No, that's okay.
Centrals will be a team to watch.
Yeah.
Recruited very well. I've got a mate that's under 18s coach down there. And, he said just keep an eye out for them. And they've lost a couple, but certainly covered their losses and made the finals last year. So,
Centrals is an interesting one because last year we thought they might struggle a little bit, and they unearthed some very, very good players along the way. And then, like you said, they're recruiting this year. Obviously, your zone out there in sort of Barossa, Light, somewhat out in that area, and they've obviously brought in a couple of players from there as well. So
a couple of young lads have gone home to Newry and Tanunda, but they'll cover them. So they've gone Tasmania and obviously a couple WA lads. So it'll be interesting to see. Love the SANFL. Yeah,
absolutely. Centrals could be a team to watch for 2024, and I think they're on my watch list as well. And then week 4, obviously only 4 teams playing on that week, which is Friday, March 22nd. We've got Port Adelaide v South Adelaide at Alberton Oval. Good to see the upgrade there at Alberton, by the way. That's probably something we haven't talked about massively in that that has just been completed, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So I'm actually looking forward to getting down to Alberton and having a little bit of a look at that one there. It looks like I haven't dissected the SANFL program yet in its entirety, but obviously with Port and Adelaide potentially going to an AFL reserves competition, the last time that Norwood and Port actually play each other will probably be at Alberton Oval under lights.
Really?
Potentially.
We better pencil that one in.
Yeah, I think we did. So we got Port Adelaide v South Adelaide at Alberton, 5:45 on Friday, March 22, and Woodville West Torrens v Adelaide at Football Park at 4:45. So Footy Park getting a little bit of a run during the pre-season games as well. So looking forward to that. All right, let's move on to soccer. Adelaide United face Central Coast Mariners at Highmarsh Stadium, Friday or Saturday night at Highmarsh Stadium.
Be a good game. Since I've talked to you, Pete, I've been lucky enough to go and watch a couple Adelaide United games at home, obviously. Good mates with Ryan, Kiddo.
Yep.
So you got me a couple of tickets, which was great.
Beautiful.
Going along quite nicely. I see their goalkeeper's been signed by Aston Villa. So
congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, playing for Australia. But going along nice. They've got to keep winning. As we said, home wins are gold. You know, you've got to scrape a couple of ways, but you've got to win everything basically at home.
Absolutely. Adelaide currently sitting 8th with a couple of must-win games against Central Coast, which are just above them on the ladder. And then they've got a couple of really winnable games against Perth, who are below them on the ladder, and Sydney, who are just above them in the ladder. So this next 3 or 4 weeks are probably going to sort Adelaide United out a little bit as to where we think they're going to finish this year. Still a big fan of Carl Viet playing the youngsters. Absolutely. And the locals too, which is vital.
Yep, absolutely. You got a homegrown talent. I know we lost Bernardi to. He went off to one of the teams there. He wasn't getting the game often enough. Yep. But good luck to him. You got to wish him well to go on. But he's still playing a lot of the young lads, which is great. And I'm a big fan too. And you can understand him.
That does help. That does
no
help.
Accent.
Absolutely. Just to finish off on the soccer, the Socceroos obviously finishing pretty much on top of their group in the Asian Championships, had a very, very good win in their first knockout and also their second knockout, I believe. Quarterfinals going to be a little tougher, but a little bit more free-flowing. I think their last match, it was very much a team that shut them down, didn't give them much room to move. They obviously won that 2-0. So I always say Simon Goodwin, but Craig Goodwin was obviously instrumental in setting up a couple of goals there as well.
Really good to see Goody going well. Lovely guy, but lucky enough to meet him at Ryan's wedding. So really down-to-earth lad. I hope he does really well. And Riley McCree too, so Gawler boy.
Yep.
So it's good to see them up and about and getting the green and gold on.
Absolutely. All right, mate, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we've got Mark Harrity, part 2.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Past players, past legends, past legends.
There's talk that everyone will play, so they're going to.
That'd be
I
great.
think there's going to be over 12 first-class cricketers in the game, which is sensational. But then what do they do? Because how's Spencer going to be ready to play Shield cricket?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how's he going to bowl 20 overs in a day when he's not bowled more than 4 in a day? And I mean, look, off the field, he'll have to start maybe working on his workloads, but he's also probably getting ready for an IPL as well.
Yeah.
In April, and that's where the structure's all over the place. It just doesn't seem right, does it?
No. Look, that 2020 semi where you played Northern Districts, that catch, you probably had a better view of it than me, Hags, because I was on the other side of the oval. The catch by your West Torrens goal where he knocked it back and then looked like he knocked himself out as he hit the ground, that is one of the best catches I've ever seen, Hags. It was incredible.
Well,
Go through that a bit.
That was the brother of Ben Menenti, Harry Menenti. So we've got Harry Menenti at our club this year, who's an exciting talent. He made the team of the year for both white ball comps. So he's someone to look out for in the future. And he actually made his first 100 for us with the bat on the weekend, and he's taken an 8 with the ball in a red ball game. So he's having a great year, and he's a bit younger than Ben, so he's still got a bit of time behind him. But mate, it's probably, you look back on little moments, and that was probably a big moment to win the game, because he's done the dive backwards over the boundary line and managed to somehow throw it back into Dan Fallon's, and as you said, he whacked his head pretty hard. I thought we might have lost him for the rest of the game, but he got up again and managed to even bowl another over, I think, after then, the second last over. So and he did it again in the final over. I think they needed 13 off the final over, and you take 6 off of that, that's 7 off 5, and he managed to actually.
That's right,
do
you
the same
too.
thing.
Yeah.
There was no one there he did it the other end of the ground. There was no one there to throw it to this time, but he saves, they ran 1 or 2 instead of getting 6. So, mate, brilliant fielding.
It was incredible. It's not often that you're at a district game and you go.
Local level, yeah.
Yeah, that you go, geez, it's a privilege to have seen that. And that's how good it was. I just was having a look at both games, wandering one, because they were both at Carrum-Rolton, one and then the other, and saw that and thought, wow, I'm so glad that I saw that piece of fielding.
Nobody got it on camera?
Sure.
I reckon it missed. I reckon he was near frog box, so it was to the side, wrong end.
Spewing.
So, I don't reckon it got it.
So, Hags, go through your coaching career, because you've been around a fair bit now. You were also bowling coach with South Australia, personally, and again, I don't really want you to comment here. You were also playing cricket at Grange, where if the remuneration had been done properly, you would have only been the bowling coach. I always thought that was quite ridiculous, but we'll leave that alone. But go through, and you've now coached West Torrens, for 8 years, and you've had a hell of a lot of success there, Hags, in all, the 2020, the 1 day, the 50 over comp, and also the district comp. So you had a hell of a lot of success in a real golden era for West Torrens Cricket Club.
Yeah, no, I've been lucky. Funny enough, the first contract I ever signed for the SAC, and my manager at the time, and I don't think I even realised this at the time, but he tried to organise to get me more money, I assume, to have a bit of a coaching thing, because as I said, blokes back in the day had jobs and that, and I just went to high school. So I started off just going out to, you go out to schools and do what they'd call appearances, but also coaching clinics, which were with some of the guys that became mentors to me in Peter Muggleton and Andrew Zessis. And then from there, I got involved with under 15s and with Mick Rotherald in under 15s, and I was the bowling coach there. And by then, I had played state cricket when I was doing the 15s, and so that was exciting, because I know all the kids, could see that obviously I'm this guy that plays on Adelaide Oval now, and rubbing shoulders with, Blewett and Lehman and Sims and that. And I think, so you got the respect there, and they were all very keen and eager to listen. So, and I was very keen and eager to pass on what I was learning, because I was learning on the spot too. So I couldn't wait to pass that on to the next generation. And it was really cool. I think the first year I had Matthew Broadbent and Hamish Hartlett in my under-15 state squad. Funny enough, they went on to be Port legends. But don't
hold that against them, Hags. It's all right,
mate. we then went from 15s to 17s. I got involved in the 19s, and I went my way up until I became a 19s coach. And I 17s second 11 coach. I just about done everything there other than being the head coach. I did the second 11 coaching. I did the strength and conditioning coaching a year there. So I've sort of been heavily involved for a while there. And then it just got to that stage where I was ready to go. Maybe need to go see what it's like to not be involved in cricket full time for a while and not coach. And I left while my wife had children and joined a business she was a director of.
Yep.
And that was just good to just get away and see what it felt like to actually appreciate. Oh, thank God it's Friday. I never understood what that meant. That phrase, thank God it's Friday. But I think once I started going to the workforce. But actually, it didn't take long before I think the Redbat League came out, and there was an offer to coach one of the teams, the Western Grit. And I found myself all of a sudden going, I'm interested in cricket again. And before you know it, you're sitting at your desk and you're thinking about team selections on the weekend rather than work, and that probably made me sort of aware that I was probably ready to go back to cricket. And then by chance, the West Torrens job come up, and it was an amazing one because at the same time I'd finally said yes to wanting to go to West Torrens, and they asked me to coach them. I got an email saying that West Torrens and Port might be merging, and there may not be a club. So I went from being excited to a bit sort of, I don't know if I've got a job now, if I'm back into cricket or not. But I had done some work with the Western Grit, which had Drew and Johnson and Kelvin Smith in it. So I knew we had, and nothing Lee Drennan. So I knew they had some talent. But when I looked at how West Torrens had gone, they sort of had only won one game the season before I took over. And so it was a strange one because it was, as I said, there was some decent talent there, young and raw talent, but they had no success. So I was really excited about doing club cricket for the first time, and amazingly, it was one of those weird years where everything went your way, but we managed to win all three competitions in the first year and only lost one game. And funny enough, the one game we lost was the only game that Callum Ferguson was available for us in. So.
I'll remember that next time I run into Ferg. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and Ferg was nice enough that night to take the boys out for a drink and paid for everything and said, look, boys, we're not going to lose another game. Him and Trent Kelly said, we're not going to lose another game, and they were right. And it was quite amazing. And then I think that was the start of some careers where Drew won the Bram in that year.
Yeah.
And we started to see the start of Spencer's career and Kelvin. And look, I've been lucky. We've won a double as well. And we're obviously in a final this Sunday. So a lot of the the players, there's been a changeover in a lot of the players, but there's, I've really enjoyed it and love it. It's not obviously something you can do forever, but it's while I'm doing it, I'm really loving it at the moment. And I love when the guys they're easy to coach because they're so passionate. What I've found out is I know that when I played at the club, if it was 41 degrees on a Tuesday like it is today, they'd be heading to the beach. But Bailey Capel's already told me he'll be at training tonight. He'll be ready to go. And that's the dedication of some of these lads. They don't believe in taking a day off, and that inspires you to
I think with Bailey that comes from let's be honest, that comes from his parents, and you couldn't get a more family get involved at a level at a club level than his fantastic parents too. There with Andrew and that. So Yeah.
Yeah, yes, no. I've been very lucky in my time there. I've watched, Kelvin and Drew and Johnston and Buckingham and Bailey himself all play Shield cricket. And that's the aim, is to keep helping those guys along the way and see if you can help get a few more over the line. And it was fantastic last year. I think the last game of the year, the 12 they named, there was 5 from West Torrens in the Shield team. So I was pretty excited about that.
Quick one, Hags, on this one. Your experience of playing county cricket for Worcestershire.
Yeah, I was just about to ask the same thing.
Yeah, county cricket, yeah, amazing. It's when I was over there in '95, I got asked by a few counties would I be interested in going. I was only 21 at the time, and I'll never forget Stewie Law, whose son is actually in my academy this year over from England. I remember Stewie saying, mate, you're too young, don't do it, you can get injuries and stuff, you can always do that later on in your career. So I sort of took his advice from a fast bowler, which, whether he's right or wrong, who knows, but I chose then to avoid it until I got closer to the end, what I thought was the end of my career. I guess sometimes you feel like you gave up too soon, and other times you don't know. I mean, Ryan Harrity debuted at 30 for Australia, where I was starting to pull the pin on playing for Australia at 30 because I thought I was done. But the opportunity to come up to go to Worcester, and it was a 2-year deal, and I sort of talked to Greg Chappell at the time, and I said, look, what do you think? And he goes, well, it's up to you, mate, but it'd be a great experience, and really it's up to you, but I'll support you either way. And I thought, well, let's maybe have a go. And yeah, I mean, my dad, who passed away 20 years ago this year, he passed away the same year as Hooksy. He was from England, and he came over in a boat when he was 6. So I really wanted to get over there because I was hoping that would lead to getting him over there and getting a chance to go back home for the first time ever. He'd never been back to England. So that sort of inspired me a little bit too. And so I have got, heritage there. And just the difference was back then it was you are basically playing and not training. You barely trained. You were playing 4 or 5 days a week, and I guess the negative and the positive was if you had a good game, you didn't get long to celebrate it, because you could be in 2 days' time you've already played another game and that's forgotten. But on the other side, if you had a bad day, you knew you can move on pretty quickly. So it was just a bit of a whirlwind over there, and again, very lucky to have played with some great players. Graham Hick being one of them, who uttermost respect for, and just got presented my cap on the oval and by Basil D'Oliveira,
famous name,
famous name, and English captain. And look, it just very lucky to have experienced it. I'm so glad I got to, because it is a great experience over there. If you love your cricket, it's so different to Australia, but it's like, the Aussies, the English that come out here in my cricket academy, they love the difference in Australian cricket and the different things that go on. And,
true.
Just like we probably feel the same way when you go over in England. It's, amazing experience playing at grounds like Lords and Headingley and all those sort of places. So, it was unfortunately cut short because my father became ill during my second year, but I was lucky enough to get nearly 2 full years out of there before I had to retire.
Have to ask about the obviously the conditions are completely different, but the balls, being a bowling specialist, what were some of the intricacies with the different balls that are obviously used in England and obviously in Australia? Yeah,
I mean, with the Duke ball to the Cooker, so the Cooker, I know, like I could come in and swing it from ball one, and then sometimes, well, it depends how well the ball was looked after, but a Kookaburra will slowly stop swinging, and especially in the day back in the day on Adelaide Oval, where we would then quickly try to get a go reverse, because the way the wicket broke up and how dry the wickets were there at Adelaide Oval, that you could get it to go reverse. So that was sort of one of my specialties there. But in England, it's a bit different. It's sort of if you get the new ball in your hand, it sometimes doesn't swing until the lacquer comes off it, and then it seem to swing the rest of the day. So it's a strange one, because if you don't like swinging a cricket ball, well, I feel you would struggle, because at any stage the ball's probably swinging in the conditions. I mean, no doubt there's obviously going to be some flat and dry pitches at different times where maybe the ball won't swing, but you can play in a game over in England where the ball swings the entire day. So
does that make you just feel more in the game than say real flat times here at bowling, especially at Adelaide Oval?
I reckon it does. To be honest, and that it's a different, and that's why basically why you'd question that we produced a lot more quick bowlers, because in those circumstances the ball often got thrown to the big quick and said, right, try to get a breakthrough here, and you'd run in and try to either put someone on the back shoe or try to hit them on the foot. But over there, they produce a lot more of the, well, people say the word dibbly-dobbler. I think
that's exactly what I was thinking of there. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it dibbly-dobbler. I mean, that's a bit harsh. These guys still might bowl 130s, but they just run in, they're not express pace, so they run in and bowl swing. And with the ball swinging a lot more, well, you're in the game still. So it's a good challenge. It's just amazing how many people have had success here in Australia but struggled there, yet over there there's people that have been really successful and they struggle here. And it's such a good thing to do as a young cricketer, to try and get over to England, or for an English guy to get to Australia, because just to get used to the different conditions, pitches, balls you use, I think it's only going to help you as a cricketer. So it's
a bit of frustration as a South Australian that Chad Sayers never went on a tour in terms for Australia.
But it's amazing how things come a little bit full circle. I'm not sure whether you did it, but I definitely did it when playing a bit of street cricket or backyard cricket, where you'd wrap half the ball with electrical tape and it'd swing a mile. So it's just funny how things go full circle there.
Yeah, we all did it.
And I just heard you say Chad's name before. I mean, Chad would have just dominated playing county cricket. I'm surprised he didn't finish a season or two over in county cricket.
Yeah, I think it was quite complicated by then, because he didn't have the Australian bit. There was a reason that he played for. I do remember Chad telling me, and I can't remember now the exact reasoning, that it was quite difficult. It wasn't an easy one for him just to be a player. So because he'd played for anyway, on that. Where do you see South Australian cricket now? How's your thoughts on the two-division bit, how it's going, and
what can be improved?
Yeah, and what's the movements forward? What's your thoughts, Ags?
I'll only ever say what I've been saying to people, and to be honest, I don't. Not everyone's going to agree, but I still think there's too many teams. I've never, for 30 odd years, I've been saying I just don't like the uneven numbers. I still think 12 teams makes sense. Look, you could get it down to 10, but let's at least try to get it to 12 before we start jumping to 10 and 8 and all those sort of things. At least get it to 12, and you can actually run a proper program, and you can have a sliding draw. You don't have to have two divisions, but like AFL football, you can have a sliding draw. So your top two teams are going to play each other twice in the year, and your bottom two teams are going to play each other twice in the year, and it filters out like it does in AFL football. To me, that would be the best draw.
Yeah, I'm still that way as well.
I just don't quite like. I can't say, and it doesn't affect me at West Torrens. I don't have any under 19 players in the under 19s this year, but I know I'd feel if I had one or two missing each game because they're playing in the 19s. So I just think you learn. I've watched Bailey Capel from a 16-year-old win premierships up to now he's 22 or 3. Mate, Bailey's, you can't tell me that he wouldn't have been better off being down the other end of Kelvin Smith and Daniel Drew and Trent Kelly even and Andrew Hazlitt than he would have been, in an under 19 team where they're all young, they're getting flogged each week, and let's positives out of it.
Let's use young Matchett out of that he plays in Kensington's premiership side last year. They lose Ross and Brown retires and all that. So it would have been a logical progression. He would have gone up the batting order this year, but he ends up now having a captain the under 19 side. And also, Pete, the other bit about the under 19 side, because of the age, they've still got the bowling restrictions. So there was one game where someone had 3 or 4 for 10, and he had to come off because he'd bowled his overs. Yep. So, again, it's not only that, captaining, it's actually a harder game to captain than a normal game. So I think they've just thrown him in the deep end, and I think young Halfpenny from Teatree Gully might be the only one who's progressed a fraction, and even that's debatable.
Yeah, exactly right. And the other thing they've got to take into account this is from a personal side of things, is you now look at coaches like Peter Muggleton and I, who's been a mentor, and I think he's a fantastic coach. Sturt went down last year. He's retired from, he still works for me at the Lehman Academy, but he moved on as coach of Sturt.
Yep.
Now, you're in a situation at the moment where it's still very open. Glenelg could probably be the only safe team, I think, at this stage.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep.
But there's a few teams in trouble, and one of them being Kenzie's, one of them being my team. Now, asking Russell and I to continue on coaching next year if we end up in Division 2, I right now, very hard to say whether I would.
Yeah, and I do think too, I don't think it's encouraging positive cricket, where at the moment everyone's really, they're sort of protecting and don't want to lose. Well, that's helping our chances. We want to get Kenzie to go down. I understand where it's coming from. And like Uni a couple of weeks ago, I was actually at that game, Uni and Kenzie. I'm thinking, Uni, for goodness sakes, declare your best chance to win this game. You should be bowling by now. But they were still batting because they didn't want to take the risk. And
yes,
I don't think that's helping overall whatsoever.
No. Well, another thing I'd love to see him do is, I've been saying this for a few years, if a team wants to bat on into the next day and use up past their allotted overs, well, then they forfeit the right to get 5 points. So,
I wouldn't mind that.
We had that the week before. Our last 2 games have been draws now. We unfortunately have East Orange 9 down, and they held on for a draw. The week before against Port Adelaide with the rain and stuff, Port Adelaide batted 85 overs and gave us 50 to try and get what they got.
Yeah.
And it was never happening. And I just feel like that should then you give up the right to get the 5 points for the draw, and I think that would help that problem.
Well, you wouldn't have batted on Saturday with that. Yeah, and I understand why you did, but you would have debated on Saturday. Do I want to? Geez, I'm doing the right thing as coach. Let Kelvin get his 200, so it's only going to be 1 ball. But the situation at the end, you're going out at the moment. Yeah, you're going. Geez, I wonder if we lost that 5 points by not declaring. So
And mate, no one was more angry than Kelvin.
I can imagine that. Yeah,
he was happy to declare, and he ended up. He's now only the second bloke in West Orange's history to make 2 doubles, and now he joins Paul Noves. And we couldn't ask the club declare, but that says a lot about him too, and where the club's at. That he, was willing to do that, and you would have thought there was a 1 in a million chance it would come down to 9 down like that, but unfortunately it happened. So frustrating, but
other influences like Jamie Siddons, as he was known as the boss, and just go through some other influences through your career quickly, Hags.
Yeah, so Jamie, funny enough, and he laughs about it, but I was scared of Jamie from day one. I was just, he's 10 years older than me, and coming in out of high school and having him there, and I just didn't. For me, it was all about impressing him. He started second slip, and I knew pretty quickly by his reaction whether I was bowling well or not. And, I used to get excited if I saw him rock up to a grade game and I knew he was in the crowd. I'd probably bowl 5-10 Ks quicker. So it was great to have him. Darren Lehman, again, completely different sort of captain, a bit more
relaxed.
A bit more relaxed and fun. But also, he wanted to win too and knew how to play hard. And I think Buff is obviously stuck in a batsman's body who wished he could bowl fast, because I know he enjoyed telling me, and I know he enjoyed telling us to try hit blokes. And lucky to have played under those 2 guys. Greg Chappell, as a coach, it was a great experience having, like Rod and Lily, who had been involved in before, having him around and his experience, wealth of knowledge. My first coach Bomber Hammond was fantastic. He really, I think he got the best out of our bowling group that year to win the Shield.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good way of saying it. Yep.
Yeah, George, Shane George had his best year ever under Bomber Hammond, and he was fantastic. Always grateful for Bomber's help and what he's done for Dizzy says the same about him. We respect him highly. Then I was very lucky to have different people in your career that want to speak to you and give you advice. And one of them was Barry Richards. He once called me into his office and wanted to speak to me about my bowling. And that's one thing you do really appreciate when people make that effort to try give you some advice and try to help you along the way. And another one was my childhood hero too, and that was Dean Jones.
Yep.
I actually I spoke to him a few times about my bowling. He sat me down one day and gave me some advice. He thought I was they'd tried to change me into a on the spot swing bowler when he said to me, I didn't like you when you were running and you're bowling wheels at me. And it's funny enough, well, not funny, I guess, but when he passed away, I remember crying, and my wife sort of said, what's happened? And I said, someone just told me Dean Jones passed away. And it took me back to my childhood, and I searched out in my man cave a video I'd made of the best of Dean Jones, and I looked at it, and it was dated only 2 years before I bowled my first ball to him in the Shield.
Yeah.
So
I get what you mean there. I did a fair bit of coaching with Dino on it, so I know exactly how the advice would have been given and all that. And he was a fascinating guy to talk cricket to.
Oh, he was, yeah. He was before his time in many ways. We could imagine him playing. A lot of people talk about who was unlucky not to be around in different eras because of 2020 and stuff. But geez, imagine him playing 2020. Yeah. Would have been exciting to watch. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, mate. We're going to get you out of here on this one, like we do with most of our guests. We like to ask for the top 2 or 3 players that you played with and the top 2 or 3 hardest against.
Okay. Top 3 with? You probably can't go past Darren Lehman. And then you've got Jamie Simmons was just, a lot of people say probably one of the unluckiest to not play any higher. But I think also just as a leader and someone able to get so many people to follow behind him, and his fielding was at another class too. He was an amazing fielder. So he would be up there, and then pretty hard to go past my mate Dizzy because he was sort of under me and came in after I did, but he quickly jumped me and became a very a leader and a good influence on me in my career. The way he went about things and his confidence and the way he talked about things. So 250 test wickets is pretty amazing.
259,
from where he come from. Yeah, 259. So that'd be the obvious 3. But yeah, played obviously with many great ones. But against, I'd find it very hard to go against Dean Jones. He did make 300 against us in the field.
That's right, he did too. Yeah.
Ricky Ponting, I've for some reason kept playing Ricky Ponting early in my career. We played Tassie 2 or 3 times very early, and I kept coming across Ponting too. And he taught me pretty quickly don't bowl short. I knew, especially on Adelaide Oval, if you bowl short, it's going to end up in the stand. And then I'd go Alan Border from. I'm talking Australians here because I've played quite a few from other countries, but Alan Border, for me, I played him 2 or 3 times early in my career before he retired, and no one I wanted to get out more than him, just so I could say I got Alan Border out because he's obviously a legend, and he just wouldn't give me an inch. He just fought, and he was so hard to get out. He's probably the biggest regret of not getting someone out was him, and then someone like Ben Johnson come on, bowled part-time medium pace and bowled him twice in one Shield game. That broke my heart.
Ben had a good. That was funny. Ben had a good record against AB. Yeah,
he bowled him 3 times. Yeah, all chopped on outside off stump. So maybe I was bowling too quick at the time. But no. So that'd be the best ones.
You've named South Australian royalty there, and you've also named some of Australian royalty as well. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, no, very lucky. Yeah, so I sent a message to Buff, Dizzy, and Bluey the other day, and you sit down and realise I was very lucky. I sat next to Bluey for my 10 years, and Buff, I think it was Bluey, me, Jamie, and Buff in a row on the old change rooms, and two of those boys have been named as two of the greatest ever.
Yeah.
and then you got a guy that I spent 99% of my time rooming with when he played for South Australia and hanging out with, because we were the two young quicks, and it was Jason Gillespie. And so you look back and you go, how lucky was I to be in an era where 3 of the 11 they named to play 10 years with them. So very, very fortunate.
Greatly appreciated, Hags. Look forward to catching up with you, I'm sure, around the district traps over the next few weeks. Greatly appreciate your time, and
good luck on Sunday.
Yeah, just hold on.
Much.
Just hold on off air too, just for a sec, Hags. Just hold on.
We thank Mark Harrity there for his time. Obviously, we recorded that interview, Phil, with Malcolm a couple of weeks ago. Just because of the length of the interviews that we do split them up from time to time. And we thank Mark for his time, and obviously wish him the best with obviously cricketing, with what happens with the Premier League cricket, obviously, in the next couple of weeks coming up towards the end of the season. So good luck to him, good luck to his team, and we'll see how that one all pans out.
Yeah, great cricketer, and it's good to see him still involved heavily with cricket, and good on him.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Happy days.
All right, kicking off Happy Days today, mate. I had to change this because I knew you were coming in, and I thought I'd better put a Port Adelaide person in for Happy Birthday this week. We actually had Connor Rosie last week, so we've had a couple of Port players in a row. They obviously all having their birthdays in sort of late December, early January, mid-January. But happy birthday to Jordan Sweet, 1998, obviously recruited to the Western Bulldogs initially as pick number 23 in the 2018 rookie draft, but now being traded, obviously, to Port Adelaide. What do you think about that recruitment?
Very happy. I was, as I said, I was in Lorne this week, and I was talking to a Western Bulldogs guy, and he said he can play. I said, I'm very happy we've got him. Apparently can play tall forward as well.
Yep.
But because we've got Solo as a ruckman too, so but it'd be very nice that height. They don't get any shorter, Pete.
Absolutely. Sweet began his football career at the Ingle Farm Junior Football Club in the inner suburbs of north of Adelaide. Obviously recruited, as we said, by the Western Bulldogs. Made his senior debut in round 5, 2021 against the Gold Coast, and has played 11 games since. I'm a bit with you. I think that the versatility of him being able to play forward and also in the ruck, I think is going to hold Port Adelaide in good stead. And geez, Dixon, Marshall, Sweet, Radigalia, and Finlayson up forward. Mate, I can't wipe the smile off your face. That is an impressive and tall forward line. That is going to be hard to stop.
Don't think we could have done any better, Pete. Obviously missed out on rookie draft a little bit, the young lads, but we've got plenty of them. Rosie, and they're still butters. They're still young. We need to fix it.
Yep.
And Radicalia was the one we really needed,
yep.
And a ruckman, obviously, and we got 2 of them. So, very happy.
Mate, can't wipe the smile off your face. I think, as we said earlier, I think Port are in that window, and it'll be an interesting year. I mean, like most teams, looks good on paper. They get out there, they play really, really good, but then injuries are going to be the key, and that's pretty much with any team. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll keep an eye on Jordan Sweet. So happy birthday to him this week. We move on to cricket, 1932, just going back a little ways there, mate. But a name that's synonymous with Australian cricket in that the cricketing master batsman Don Bradman scores 299 not out in a 10-wicket fourth test win against South Africa. He basically ran out of partners looking for his 300th.
Oh, unbelievable.
300 runs.
Unbelievable, isn't it? The mind boggles to get to that. You know what? Mental strength. We talked about that today.
Yep.
And lucky enough to meet Don. He was an older man already. up in the Bros Valley when I was living up there. And, just a lovely guy and was happy to have a chat. But good on him. Yeah,
absolutely. But
fantastic.
299, you're on your 10th wicket. You're looking for your 300th, and it just runs out, unfortunately. But nevertheless, he broke every record that you can think of back in the day. That's for sure. All right, we move on to tennis. The Australian Men's Championship in 1925. I wasn't quite around. I don't think you were either. But tennis, Sydney's James Anderson of Australia wins his second straight Australasian crown, beating countryman Gerald Patterson, 11-9, 2-6, 6-2, 6-3.
There you go. Can't say I've heard of him, but
11-9. I mean, that's
11-9.
probably what a lot of people don't quite understand is that those sets were all open sets. Yeah. You had to win them by 2 games until the tiebreaker was obviously introduced. Huge first set. You'd be a bit annoyed losing it, but pretty good comeback in the second set, winning at 6-2. So Gerald Patterson, obviously, unfortunately, on the receiving end on that occasion, but well done to James Anderson. We move on. Super Bowl 1988, obviously that's coming up and will be very topical over the next couple of weeks, but Super Bowl 23 in San Diego, California. The Washington Redskins beat the Denver Broncos 42-10. That's a blowout. You don't want to see that, do you?
No. Not a big fan of it, I must say, Pete.
Okay. Is it because it's the show?
Oh, just the padding and Americans being Americans at times. I always look for the Aussie guys in there that are kickers or whatever. But I did actually watch that last year's and big blowout, wasn't it?
It was. Yep. And to finish us off in basketball, mate, 1982. The 32nd NBA All-Star Game was in East Rutherford, New Jersey. East beats West 122-118, and these All-Star Games are obviously a lot of fun, but, you get some top players. And one man stood out amongst them all, and that was Larry Bird.
Well, there you go. Yeah. They're still playing him?
Yep.
Still doing? Okay.
It's a free-for-all.
Yep.
There's no holds barred and the scores are just ridiculously high and guys are taking ridiculous shots from everywhere and making them. It just is. It's a talent show, basically.
Yep. I suppose injury's always a problem, isn't it? You get injured in one.
And part of the reason why AFL doesn't have state of origin anymore. Anyway, all right, we're going to take a very, very quick break. When we come back, the extra time big finish.
Hi, I'm Mark Harrity and you're listening to the Game On podcast.
Extra time, big finish.
All right, we'll whiz through these pretty quickly, mate. Thank you for your time today. We're scooting along and time is getting away from us very, very quickly. But the basketball, I've been the Adelaide 36ers' biggest critic, I suppose, this season. But their actually record is 5-1 since the turn of the new year in 2024. So I have to eat a little bit of humble pie on that one.
Got to be exactly the same as you, Pete. You've written them off and, got rid of the coach and,
What's going on.
Yeah, obviously club turmoil, but they've all bonded together and let's see out the year and see how we go.
Certainly something to work on for next season. Yep. They are talking up that they still are a bit of a chance for finals, but look, when you start doing the maths, that's when you know you're in a bit of trouble when it comes to doing the maths. But certainly this is a good stepping stone for them to try and build on for next year. But the club has announced that they won't be appointing a coach, obviously, anytime soon. I think they're going to do their due diligence as far as they're going to wait until the end of the season. I'm a big call for let's have a bit of a review and look at things from top to tail because, like Malcolm keeps saying, their crowds are amazing. Yep. They seem to have the cattle on the park. They seem to be able to play very, very good at times, but then at other times they just go missing. Is there something that does need to be changed? We talked about, obviously, the AFL teams, having that sort of internal review or external review, depending on how they want to look at it. I'd be keen for that to happen because we want success. I mean, they've moved to the entertainment centre. They're still selling out the joint. The only thing that can make that thing burst at the seams is success.
Yep, winning.
Exactly right.
Winning helps.
Absolutely. All right. You did say you're not a fan of the NFL, but we've got to talk about it. Divisional champs were obviously decided, and now we have a week before the big dance. What are your thoughts on the week in between, the week break?
Yeah,
it's a PR thing.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's a money-making PR thing.
Because what do you do that week? I mean, you'd be...
Oh, you'd be toey. You'd be toey wanting to get on with it, wouldn't you?
Mrs. would be copping a bit of flack, wouldn't she?
Yeah, I
mean, I don't know. It's American.
Yeah. Obviously, we do it a little bit before the AFL finals with the 1 week off before the finals start, but then once the finals start, it's continuous right through the grand final. I understand they probably want their best players playing in the showpiece game. Obviously, Kansas City defeating the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers defeating the Detroit Lions. It's going to head over to the biggest show on earth, which is Las Vegas. It's going to be huge.
Don't they? I mean, they have the best artists singing, and what's an advert worth? It's ridiculous,
2 or 3 million for a 30-second spot or a 15-second spot. You couldn't get any bigger. Biggest game in Super Bowl. You couldn't get any bigger game for the year. It's become a global thing now, and they're going to one of the most recognised places in America, and that's Las Vegas, and they know how to throw a party.
It should be party time there, won't it?
Going to be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Obviously, Kansas City are obviously looking to defend their title, and that is a very, very hard thing to do in Super Bowls, just with the way that seasons are structured up as well. Big one that came across the desk today was Formula One. Lewis Hamilton has announced that he's going to be driving for Ferrari in 2025. That is huge news.
Yeah, again, I must admit, not a big fan of Formula Ones, but went and watched them here when they came over to Adelaide years and years ago. But, well, there you go. Ferrari, Be nice, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Just reading between the lines, and obviously this has only just become breaking news, but obviously he's a massive fan of Michael Schumacher. He wants to sort of follow in his footsteps,
fair enough.
Which is fair enough. And obviously struggling a little bit where he is at the moment. Change of scenery can be very, very good for any sport, really.
Absolutely.
So we wish him the best with Ferrari in 2025. A couple of questions just to finish us off. The Australian Diamonds take it to another level against another title, I should say, against a very, very determined England in another tight contest. Now, the reason I put this on the run sheet is that the Diamonds obviously had their pay disputes, yet they're still going out there and winning titles. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, had a big chance, didn't they? What's her name? Gino Reinhardt was going to throw some money their way, and they went against that, and now they just got a battle. But they're unbelievable to watch. I have watched some of that, and it's
quick sticks. It's not light,
and there's
physical.
some hip and shoulders and elbows, and it's really good to watch.
Absolutely.
It is.
All right, and to finish us off, Ash Barty makes a return, but to golf.
Yeah.
She's going to be playing off a 4 handicap. I think it's a tournament in New Zealand. Very handy player at whatever sport she plays. So, geez, I'd love a 4 handicap.
I'd love to be able to hit the ball straight.
Cool.
But, yeah, I mean, good on her. I thought it might have been tennis. I might have came back. But it's golf, it is. I saw her swinging. And, it looks like she's very, very handy.
I just love her personality. I think she's going to be great for golf. And if she's the poster child for women's golf, like she was the poster child for cricket and for tennis, golfers got themselves an absolute beauty. All right, quickly, mate. The good, the bad, the ugly this week. Couple of good ones.
Good. Who's good this week, Pete?
Well, I'm going to go Sinner. I think Sinner winning
you would have to.
winning his first Grand Slam,
and brought that up.
Darren Cahill being in the box for me.
No, happy with that.
What about your bad, mate?
Bad this week, Pete. Who are we going to go for?
I'm going to go a little bit with you on the NFL in that the week between the Super Bowl it just seems like it's a massive PR, but again, it is an American thing. So for me, I want to get the game going. Let's go.
I agree. I mean, but I guess they're playing adverts and all of that during the week, and that's costing them, and it's a big money thing, isn't it?
Look, we do a bit of sports commentary. It gives us something to talk about, so it's not a bad thing, I suppose.
Exactly.
And probably my ugly for the week, or your ugly for the week.
You caught me again.
Mate, I'm going to go first on this one. It's me. I'm the ugly for the week on the fact that I'd been given the 36ers quite a bit of stick, and they've turned around with a 5-win record since 2024. So that's my ugly for the week, me being so critical.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all in the same boat, though, Pete. So, I might have to follow suit again. I mean, there you go.
And my other ugly is probably Rory Sloane. Could be something that
is it the end?
Is it going to hamper him getting back? So,
yep.
Wish him the best of luck there. And I know that obviously he will make every effort to return, and I think he'll excite Crows fans maybe for one last time, which would be fantastic.
Yep.
All right, mate, this has been a massive episode. Thank you once again for filling in for Malcolm on that one there. He hopefully is on the recovery from COVID, but as per usual, we like to say at the end of the episode, we promise to do better next week because it can only go up from here.
Yeah, exactly, Pete.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, mate. Cheers, mate.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.